Hi again then guys, and welcome to yet another look into the past of the Forza franchise with Forza Motorsport 2. In particular, this time looking at a car which has been featured on a couple of games in terms of the brand, but not this specific model. And to be honest, I'm kind of surprised that that was the case, because this has a very similar kind of vibe to it as vehicles like the top secret Silvia and the top secret Supra, which of course were kept on in the Forza franchise in 3 and 4 as well. And they became true unicorn cars. In Forza 4 in particular, you could only win them. This car is very similar. Now, it's not quite as quick as a top secret Supra, and it's not as much of a drift machine as the Silvia, but at least for me it has a very similar vibe to those kind of cars, plus it certainly deserves to be a unicorn. But for whatever reasons they chose not to include it later on, and the car is of course a Mazda RX-7 of the FD generation, in particular tuned by legendary company when it comes to rotary engine cars, RE Amemiya. And of course RE itself stands for rotary engine. Now, this car is, as you'd expect, a rotary engine vehicle, pretty much goes without saying, although some people do engine conversions on RX-7, so it's not a guarantee, and the numbers are pretty good. 441 horsepower as standard, 335 pound-feet of torque, and it only weighs 1122 kilos, which again isn't too surprising. For an RX-7 they are typically quite light, as are most rotary engine cars. They have a lot of potential when it comes to stripping out a ton of excess weight, which there isn't much of to begin with anyway, and turning them into potentially great track cars. And that's exactly what this one is. It goes to, as I've said before, show what RE Amemiya is capable of as a company, an aftermarket company in particular, but also at the same time it just works as this fully spec'd out, pre-tuned aftermarket model which you can just jump straight into even without any tuning and fly around the track and have a whole lot of fun, because this car can definitely do that. You're looking at just under 400 horsepower per tonne, 393 is the exact figure, and the price is quite high, but if I recall I think you can win this one, as you can with a number of the others, for whatever event that was, but the price tag is 222 grand. Which is quite a bit. That's not the most expensive of aftermarket cars, but it's up there. It's quite a lot for sure. But the difference between something like this and I would say something like the Sparco Evo, for instance, which we reviewed before, is that this one feels well suited. The Evo feels like it's almost great, but not quite, at least for me. Then you get others which are great cars, something like the Lingenfelter Corvette, I would say, the Goldstrand, the Hennessy Viper Venom, a variety of others as well, Japanese ones. The Top Secret Supra is a perfect example, the Tommy Kaira R, based of course on the R34, they are truly great aftermarket variations, even when they don't have a stupid amount of power. For instance, the Tommy Kaira R, it's not a ridiculously powerful car, but it's still a whole lot of fun, and it's really enjoyable to own, to look at, to drive. It's a good all-round package. This one, I would say, definitely falls into that camp. Primarily because, as you'd expect and want from an RX-7, it's not just a pretty face. It's a car which has a ton of punch in a straight line and around the track, and although in a straight line it's not going to worry something like a top-end sports car anytime soon, especially not a tuned one, it's no slouch. And of course, 9 times out of 10, you're either going to use this as a technical circuit car, as I am here, or potentially as a drifter as well. And I seem to recall a lot of people using this as a drift car way back in the online days of Forza 2, which is understandable. The RX-7 is already a great drift car. It has that kind of look to it in this form with the big body kit, the large rear wing, the decals. It's a great looking car, but in a similar way to what I would say the Tommy Kairas do, it has this feel of a true unicorn to it. And again, I hate to keep harping on the Sparco Evo, but cars like that, they always disappoint me a little bit as soon as I first see them, because although they have these loud colours and stickers and upgraded bodywork, it almost feels like they just have all of those things for the sake of it, whereas the design of the car doesn't necessarily have a particular direction that it's wanting to go in, it's just an upgraded Evo, visually speaking. Whereas then you get other cars like the Lingenfelter Corvette in particular, or this one, or again the Tommy Kaira R, they look bespoke. They have a very distinct design. The Veilside Supras, as well, are a perfect example of that. They're not what most people would call pretty cars, but they have a radically different and also very specific goal of what they want that car to look like. The AB Flug models as well, especially the AB Flug Supra, it looks like no other Supra in the game, not just because they shoved a load of parts on there for the sake of it, but because it has a specific visual goal that it wants to achieve. This car has that same look. It looks like somewhere between D1 GP drift car and, say, Super GT machine, which isn't too surprising given that RE Amemiya, of course, were in the JGTC and the GT300 classes with the bright yellow and blue paint. It's an iconic car for that, and it's nice to be able to use something from them as a company on the road, on the street-level circuits of the game, against road cars. Because, of course, in something like the Gran Turismo franchise, most people aren't going to let you use the JGTC spec models against road cars. That just wouldn't be fair. Whereas this one is a true, genuine rival to those, and it just makes the usability of a model like this that much more effective. You just get more opportunities to use the car, to have fun with it, to win races with it, to drift it if you want to. So overall, I think this is a great example of a unicorn car. I do have a soft spot for the FD RX-7 already, which of course helps, but this is a very tastefully done upgrade, even if you're not a fan of what some people would call ricers, with body kits and wings and that kind of stuff. Even then, I think those people especially could probably still appreciate the way that this car looks, because it's tastefully done, it's classy, it looks kind of like a race car. It's just a nicely set up machine. It has just enough power to get the job done. Again, like the Tomicara, but not a ridiculous amount. Not that that would be bad, but again, it knows what it wants to be. And it's a pleasure to work with. It's a real shame that it wasn't featured in later games, but at the same time, it's kind of understandable. They had to cut things back for licensing issues, swap in other cars, etc, etc. But it is a shame, because this one would have been a perfect candidate for being a unicorn car in, say, Forza 3, or especially Forza 4, because, of course, on Forza 4, there was a Unicorn RX-7, but I believe it was just the Spirit R version, which, of course, is a production car. And that's fair enough, but it doesn't feel like a true unicorn, whereas this one definitely does. So if you go back to play Forza 2, this is definitely a highlight, really cool car, and a must-have for any RX-7 fan. And that's it for this pick, so of course I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.